Hi, welcome to this discussion of chapters 4 and 5 in your textbook. So we can go here to Essay Basics, and you're going to see chapter 4 and chapter 5 there, and you can go and read the individual sections. I'm actually going to go ahead and just open up the ebook. We'll wait for it to load up. So, as you remember, we've been discussing the writing process, and we talked about pre-writing or invention as the first stage, then drafting is the second stage, right? So your book also talks about arrangement, and there's another video that talks about that. So here in drafting, we are looking at the steps in actually completing the essay itself. And then how do we get it to the point where we're publishing it, we're submitting it, we're sending it out for other people to read, right? So the first stage is in drafting. So drafting has different meanings depending on the stage. So you've got your rough draft, right, which may have been a pre-write that I asked you to do, or you might not be required to do a rough draft by me, but it's basically the first time that you finish the essay. We call that a rough draft because it doesn't reflect revision and editing and all that. It's just kind of rough, right? So again, here it says the purpose of a first draft or the rough draft is to get your ideas down on paper so you can react to them, right? Again, writing is messy. It takes a lot of work to get that essay to the stage where it's perfected, not perfect, but perfected, right? And we have to go through multiple drafts to do so. And some of those drafts will focus on very specific activities to help us get that essay to the point that we need, right? So a rough draft, again, is just finishing the essay. And your book says, don't necessarily begin with the introduction. You have to have a thesis, right? It says, let your thesis guide you, but begin with the body paragraphs. That's because, when you have your thesis, you're going to also then have your topic sentences, which are the points you're using to support your thesis, right? And so then you know what your body paragraphs are going to be about. You don't necessarily know how you're going to introduce them. You don't necessarily know how you're going to conclude the essay at this point. And so starting at the introduction isn't required. Some people like to do it because they feel like it's a chronological thing, or they like the order of starting with the introduction and then moving that. But really, you got your thesis statement. Go ahead and start working on the body paragraphs. And then when you get done with those, you'll have probably a better sense of what you want to say to your reader to get them into the thesis and the body, right? It says here, get your ideas down quickly, right? When we're rough drafting, we're not worrying about making sure that the sentences are perfect or anything like that. We're not even worried about making sure that we have completely developed an idea at this point. We're really just trying to get it done. Now, this is different than free writing or any of the pre-writing techniques, also which don't usually worry about grammar. The difference in these two stages is that in drafting, we know what our thesis is. We know kind of what the structure of the essay is. In pre-writing, we're looking for ideas. So we don't have necessarily a focused concept, right? Take regular breaks as you write. Yeah, don't try to sit down and necessarily do everything at once. You might need to get up after 20 minutes, take about a 5 or 10-minute break, and then get right back to it. Don't take too long. This is a break, it's not, an end. But again, get up, move around, get the blood flowing. I'm really bad about sitting in front of the computer, and I'll be there 5 hours working, and then I get up, and my old bones do not like sitting down that long, right? And so that's why I do stuff here in my recliner because I'm sitting in that chair so much during the day that, I want to sit in a comfy chair as much as possible. So again, you might need to take a break to get something to drink or eat. You might just need a break to listen to some music, maybe watch a little bit of the news or something to just kind of give your head a little disconnect from it, and then you get back to it, right? Leave time to revise. This is why you need to start the assignment early as possible, right? As soon as it's assigned, begin working on it, because that will give you room on the back end of of this unit to actually put it away, right? It allows you to do as many revisions as you need, as opposed to having to rush through because it's due tonight and I'm just now finishing it, right? Writing is a process. It requires reflection, it requires planning and thinking and all of that. You cannot rush that, right? If you are already an exceptional writer, you certainly can push out a lot of work fast, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be the best work, even if you are a really good writer. But most freshmen are not familiar enough with writing to be able to do that. So, again, give yourself as much time as possible. So, when it comes to revising your draft, so revising is a word that means to re-see, right? So, you think about vision and right? So, here, what you're going to do is you're coming back and you're really evaluating and reflecting on what you've said in that draft. So, it's different than editing and proofreading. I like to think about it this way. Editing and proofreading is more about the presentation of your ideas, right? How have you dressed them up? Have you put them in the right language? Have you formatted them in the right style? Revision is about actually looking at what are you saying and who are you saying to. So revision is more about the ideas and the content. Editing and proofreading are about the presentation of that content. Now, there is some overlapping. We still look at sentences and words and things like that in both the revision and editing process, but the reason for doing that is a bit different. Also, realize that you can have multiple revision and multiple editing drafts. Don't feel like you have to get everything done in one draft. Again, revision that might work for a short essay, but editing you usually want to have a couple of drafts just because you fix some things and that might have a domino effect, and then you see other things that need to be fixed, right? So you got to go back maybe a couple of times with editing. Revision you might get through in one go through if you're focused and you know what you're doing and you have a pretty short paper. So here it says it considers the logic and clarity of your ideas as well as how effectively they are presented. So again, it's not the manner they're presented, it's the effectiveness of them. So it's about what are you saying, how are you saying it, who are you saying it to, right? So again, we might need to add and delete extensively. We may need to reorder ideas or paragraphs or even sentences, right? We need to think about how we're communicating ideas to our audience. This is all revision. And notice it says don't be discouraged, right? Again, writing is messy. It's not easy. Even I struggle, as experienced a writer as I am. I even struggle sometimes to the point that I want to pull my hair out. But I know the techniques to use. I believe in the process. I trust in the process. And if I just keep working at it and I do the things that are recommended in this book, then I usually pretty quickly get back on track, right? So here are some things to do if you're feeling, to maximize revision, right? The first thing is give yourself a cooling off period. It's really great to be able to put a draft away for half a day, 2 days, a weekend, and then come back to it. And again, you need to start early to have the luxury of that time. What happens is by totally stop working on it, right? Our brain disconnects so that when we come back to it, we're going to see it with fresh eyes and we'll notice things that we didn't notice before because our brain will trick us. We will read something and our brain will fill in gaps or say things or to us that it's not actually there on paper, right? And so having that break will allow us to see it a little bit more clearly. Revise